Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about the wealthiest continent the world keeps underestimating. When you hear the word Africa, what image flashes into your mind? Be honest, for many people raised on media stereotypes, it's poverty, hunger, war, disease, corruption. But here's the truth the world rarely talks about. Africa is the wealthiest continent on earth, not in the narrow sense of GDP per capita or cash reserves, but in the vast, undeniable, and often untapped natural wealth, human potential, cultural richness, and strategic importance. Today, we are going to break that down. We will explore Africa's staggering natural resources, its booming youthful population, its cultural and ecological treasures, and importantly, why that wealth hasn't yet reached the hands of its people. And we will explain why Africa's rise isn't just an African story, it's a global one. Strap in, this might challenge everything you think you know. Section 1: The land beneath our feet. Let's start with the obvious natural resources. Africa holds 30% of the world's mineral reserves. This kind of minerals the world desperately needs to function. Consider this: 40% of the world's gold lies under African soil. 90% of the global chromium and platinum reserves are in Africa. Cobalt, manganese, bauxite, phosphate, copper, uranium, diamonds, and rare earth metals. Africa has them, and in massive quantities. Your smartphone, it likely relies on cobalt from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Your electricity car battery, lithium and cobalt, again, often from Africa. Your solar panels, minerals from African mines. Africa also holds 10% of global oil reserves, especially in Nigeria, Angola, Libya, and Algeria. 8% of global natural gas reserves, some of the largest tropical rainforests and carbon sinks, second only to the Amazon. And here's the kicker: Africa has 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land. That means with the right infrastructure, investment, and climate smart agriculture, it could feed the entire planet and then some. Let that sink in. Section 2: Water, Sun, and Wind. But wealth isn't just minerals and oil. Africa is extraordinarily wealthy in water and renewable energy potential. The Nile River, the Congo River, the Niger, the Zambezi, these are lifelines not just for Africa but for the global environment. Africa's solar energy potential is unmatched. The Sahara Desert alone receives enough sunlight that, if harnessed properly, it could power Europe, Africa, and the Middle East many times over. Wind power along Africa's coasts, geothermal energy in the Rift Valley, and hydropower across the continent offer opportunities to leapfrog fossil fuels and become a global leader in renewable energy. In fact, some African nations like Kenya already generate up to 90% of their electricity from renewables. Imagine the rest of the continents following suit. Section 3: People, People, People. But perhaps the most overlooked wealth is human. Africa's population today is over 1.4 billion and it's young, 60% under age 25. By 2050, Africa's population is expected to double to nearly 2.5 billion, meaning in every 4 people on earth, 1% will be African. This is staggering. While Europe, Japan, and China face shrinking, aging populations, Africa's workforce is booming. That's not just a demographic fact, it's an economic engine. A young population means more workers, more innovators, more consumers, more talent in technology, medicine, agriculture, education. Already, Africa is home to some of the world's most exciting tech hubs, e.g., Nairobi, Kenya, known as Silicon Savannah, pioneering mobile payments like M-Pesa; Cape Town, South Africa, a hotbed of innovation in AI, health, tech and software development, and others like Nigeria. If given the right tools, education, connectivity, capital, Africa's young people will transform not just their continent but the world economy. Section 4: Cultural and Ecological Wealth. Wealth isn't just physical, it's also cultural and ecological. Africa is the cradle of humanity, the birthplace of Homo sapiens. Its cultural diversity is breathtaking. Over 2,000 languages, rich oral tradition, literature, music, and art, spiritual systems, and philosophical traditions that have influenced global movements. From Afrobeat and high life to ancient sculptures and contemporary African fashion, Africa's cultural exports are booming. Global stars like Burna Boy, Wizkid are reshaping music worldwide. And let's not forget Africa's ecological wealth. The Congo Basin rainforest helps regulate the global climate. African wildlife, elephants, lions, rhinos, gorillas, supports biodiversity and draws millions in ecotourism. These are not just African treasures, they are global treasures. Section 5. So, why poverty? Now, here's the hard question. If Africa is so rich, why are so many Africans poor? The answer lies in history and global systems. For centuries, Africa's wealth was plundered. The transatlantic slave trade stole millions of people. Colonial powers reduced borders and extracted resources, leaving economies dependent on raw materials, not finished goods. Even after independence, many African nations fell into debt traps caught between corrupt local elites and foreign interests. Today, multinational corporations still extract African resources while the profits leave the continent. For example, diamonds mined in Botswana or the DRC can be sold for thousands in London, while local miners earn a pittance. Cocoa from Ivory Coast and Ghana fits the global chocolate industry, but local farmers barely scrape by. Africa's challenge has never been lack of wealth, it's lack of control over its wealth. Section C: The Turning Point. But here is the exciting part. Africa is starting to reclaim its wealth. The African Continental Free Trade Area, launched in 2021, connects 55 countries, creating the largest free trade zone in the world by number of countries. This could boost intra-African trade. Currently, only 17% of African exports stay within the continent. Encourage value-added industries so African countries process their own cocoa, coffee, minerals, and oil rather than just exporting raw materials. Strengthen regional infrastructure from roads and ports to digital networks, making it easier for African business to grow and scale. We are also seeing more African venture capital, local entrepreneurship, and pan-African innovation ecosystems. In short, the tide is turning. Section 7: Why Africa's wealth matter to you. Africa's wealth is not just Africa's story, it's a global story. Global food security. Africa's farms will be essential. Climate stability. Africa's forests, wetlands, and renewables are key. Clean technology. Africa's minerals are indispensable. Global economic growth. Africa's workforce will drive it. Ignoring Africa or treating it only as a place of crisis is not just unjust, it's self-destructive for the rest of the world. If Africa rises, the whole world benefits. If Africa falters, we all pay the price. Africa is not a poor continent, it's a rich continent whose wealth has been stolen, mismanaged, and unappreciated. It's a continent of abundance, of resilience, of hope, poised to take its rightful place on the global stage. But this is not inevitable. It requires fairer global trade, climate justice, investment in people, good governance, and African-led solution. The next time someone tells you Africa is poor, remember this: Africa is already wealthy. The challenge is making sure that wealth benefits Africans first, because when African rises, the world rises too. Thank you.